All right, guys, great show so far. In this episode, John Shrek McPhee, the sheriff of Baghdad, talks about the coach's eye and why he loves that program.
I'm John Shrek McPhee, the sheriff of Baghdad. Next thing we're going to talk about is the why of video diagnostics. A lot of guys ask me why I transitioned over to the video diagnostics, and the reason is several-fold. The first thing I'm going to talk about for video diagnostics is just perfect practice. Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So the gun industry says you need 10,000 rounds to get better. And truthfully speaking, you know, this might be a kind of true statement, but if you did something and you didn't know what percentage you were doing it at 10,000 times, the 10,000 at first would only be more of the same. It may not be better. To where the video diagnostics is, what I see with the video diagnostics, if you did it 10 times perfectly, the 11th is going to be closer to perfect than anything else that you've done. So the video diagnostics helps me create an environment for a guy to do perfect practice. And that perfect practice requires less rounds, it requires less energy, and it requires less everything, because we just do it perfectly and we take our time and we do it. The next thing to shooting is all subconscious. I learned this in combat. Guys said, hey, I shot a guy, I didn't see my sights. How is this possible? I'd check the shots would be perfect. So shooting is all subconscious, and there's two parts to the mind, the subconscious and the conscious mind. The conscious mind, me talking to you right now, is 40 bits a second. The subconscious mind works at 1.1 million bits a second. And I'm not a bit guy, I'm not a computer guy, I don't know what that is, but I know my subconscious mind works a million times faster than my conscious mind. So what happens is, as a shooting happens, it boils back to how well you were trained and how many times you do perfect practice. So you could shoot thousands of rounds and you could shoot for 16 hours a day. And what happens is your brain, when it starts to get tired, will instantly start to cut corners because your brain starts to get tired. This is human nature. This is how it works. And as your brain starts to get tired and cutting these corners, you develop bad habits. The next piece is your brain doesn't know bad habits from good habits. Your brain just knows habits. And your brain, after 10,000 rounds, says, hey, this is the way I've done it every time, no matter what. So when you get in your first shooting, or you get into a shooting, your brain's going to resort back to what it knows best. And if that's not perfect practice, that is going to be much more of the same of what you're doing. So what I do with the video is the video shows you exactly what the subconscious mind is doing exactly when it happens. And there's a lot of things with shooting that you can't see with the naked eye. You know, breaking the sear on the trigger is 1/100th of a second. You can't see that with the naked eye. A gun functions in 3/100ths of a second. You can't see that with the naked eye. A guy may overdrive the rifle on presentation and wiggle it for a half a second. You can't see that with the naked eye, but with the video, as I go 240 frames a second and I break it down frame by frame, I see exactly what this guy is doing when it happens. The brain, being a very smart animal, the brain knows good shooting from bad shooting, but what the brain doesn't know is what it looks like as it shoots. So the brain, what happens is, the brain sees TV and it sees someone like Rob Latham or an IPSC match, and it's like, wow, that's good shooting. And then you watch a movie like Rambo or something where he's shooting the M60 from the hip and you're like, oh, the brass is gonna burn your nipples, the gun is hot, that's terrible shooting. Your brain knows good shooting from bad shooting, but what your brain doesn't know is what you look like as the gun goes off. And the more the brain sees what you look like when the brain goes off, the more the brain will start to learn. And what happens is, as the brain starts to learn, what I teach based off the video diagnostics is where the head needs to be, where the hands need to be, the cleanest movements you could possibly have. A lot of malfunction drills are about efficiency. A lot of shooting and speed in shooting is more to do with efficiency than anything else. And that's what makes the video so important. I'm John Shrek McPhee, the sheriff of Baghdad, Video Diagnostics.